In the dark shadows, in the white cold, fearlessly we search for knowledge new and old. We drink the strong spirits and read the ancient tomes. The order of the Abracast. We are the brave and the bold. Take control of your destiny. Understand your past, put your present in context, and know your future with a twist. Check out the designs and watch the videos about Abracast Tarot Card Deck on Advertise.com. When you order a deck, get a free exclusive bonus tarot card. Also, sign into the mailing list to get a free ebook about the Abracast Tarot Card Deck and other bonus content. Visit the storefront on Abracast.com. The Abracast, occult, history, conspiracy, and violence.
Please note the explicit content indicator. This means that I use adult language. I do not speak in a humorless, public radio hushed monotone. I am excited and enthusiastic about the information that I present and the topics I discuss. You will hear ice rattle in my glass throughout the show. On the show, I joke about bodily functions, sex acts, religion, and politics. The topics may seem random or scattered through the back catalog. A list of show topics in chronological order is provided on the featured topic link at Abercast.com. If any of these issues might trigger you, this might not be the podcast for you, and I wish you good luck finding a show more to your liking. It's that time again. The music is low. The party is over. The fire is dying down, and all the ordinary people passed out long ago. Now we are the only ones left. Hey, everybody. Welcome. This is John. Welcome to the Fellowcraft episode for March 2020. The year is flying the fuck by already. I was just working on this month's Fulgar Correspondentia, and I'm like, what am I doing? It's March already? But that also means, looking at my recording schedule, that this Fellowcraft episode is going to mark the end. My condolences. The end of the Milton William Cooper or Bill Cooper dissection that we've been working on for the last 3 months. And I hope everyone took time to listen to that that interview I did with Micah Hanks on the regular show a few weeks ago, because we kind of got into this, and I explained why it was important to have Micah on to talk about some of the other origin theories for UFOs. If you haven't heard that on the regular show, I strongly suggest you go back and listen to that. And maybe also the Jim Harold one that I just interview that I just did. So thank you for listening to that if you did. But I think Mr. Hanks had a lot of important things to say, especially when we're looking at, Bill Cooper is all in on the alien or the extraterrestrial origin of UFOs. So I was glad that I was able to get someone of Mr. Hanks's character to kind of come on and shed a little bit of light on some of the other theories that are out there. But we're still on Bill Cooper's work right now, and I can't for the life of, I'm usually pretty good at stuff like this, but I wasn't sure where I ended the last episode. So we moved on from it was just titled "The UFO Conspiracy: Information Concerning the U.S. Government Cover-Up of Alien Activity on Earth," according to Milton William Cooper. We moved on to the second speech that I found called "Operation Majority." And we were going through that one, and I'm not exactly sure where we left off, so I'm just going to pick it up. I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of overlap, but once we get done with this part of it, we are going to move into a document that he calls Appendix C, or Musings. And there is some great, I was trying to figure out how to structure it as a show, but I'm just going to go through it. Like, I'm just going to talk about it because there's some great stuff in there. And I think it would be a great place to end our kind of dissection of Bill's work here. So thank you for coming along the ride with me. I'm not sure exactly what we're going to be getting into next month. Couple quick little programming notes. Not that I like to do this on these Fellowcraft episodes, but for you guys that do support the show, you might be interested, if you haven't heard already, that there's a new merch link up on the website. I got a TeePublic account, and there's two test shirts up there right now. They're both from my tarot card deck. I have the Wizard, which is Cyrus the dead guy surrounded by the symbols of the four suits of the minor arcana, enjoying a cigarette. But in the Wizard card, the symbols of the suits are in the wrong order. And so the other shirt that I did was the Magician card, where this magician is surrounded by the four suits, the symbols of the four suits in the correct order. And I talk a little bit about her skill as a juggler because she wields each symbol masterfully all at the same time. And if you're not familiar with the image, go check out the image on the website. In the Fulgore Correspondentia section, which everyone should have access to that's listening to this, or just go check out the merch link and you could see the image and why it's kind of important. So following the tradition of Crowley's deck or the Thoth deck, there will eventually be 3 magic users, and they're all numbered 1. However, the Wizard and the unrevealed 3rd magic user they both reside in the Vulgar Arcana, which is the 3rd arcana of my deck. I know no one's ever done anything like this before. How did you do it? We'll get into it more and explain it as the things progress. But you can check all those out. And if you are compelled to purchase a t-shirt, that would be great. Just send me a picture of you with the shirt. We'll do something with it. Or without the shirt, if you know what I mean. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. That was a joke. It's a very bad joke. Resource. I added a resource section to the website. Okay, also, So a few listeners have asked me for a reading list. But I talk about so many books. I'm like, what reading list? What, should I just put every book that I talk about on the reading list? So what I decided to do instead was I decided to create an indispensable book list. So I launched that. It's on the website. There's a new button called resources, and there's a drop down. You just go to, I think it's called reading list, which is stupid because I just explained why it wasn't a reading list. Anyways, go to the indispensable books link. There's some links, and they should take you right to the Amazon if you want to get it, if you want to actually purchase them. If you want to know kind of what's in my section, this is stupid because it's a lie. Like, I got one giant bookshelf in my house. I actually have bookshelves everywhere in my house, but if there were an indispensable bookcase, these are the books that would be on there, and I'm just going to add a couple to them every month as we go along. And also, there is also another new resource. We started a blog. So you can find the blog right from the website and go there. There's some fun tarot card stuff there already. But it's not going to be all about the tarot cards. I'm going to unpack it as I go. find good stuff for it. So, and if any of you guys out there are interested in contributing to the blog, I know this was brought up by a Vessel of the Art level supporter, actually. Ryan, if you're out there, holla. Thanks, buddy. Yeah, so, I fucking totally just zoned out. Ryan brought up the idea of opening up, the blog to listeners that want to write pieces of weird shit. So, yeah, if you're out there, you're interested, you got that itch you want to scratch, hit me up, send me it. We'll take a look at it. I will take all the help I can get, everybody. All right, so on to this thing, this Milton William Bill Cooper business. This is, again, like I said, there's going to be some overlap from the end of the last episode, the last Fellowcraft episode, but we're going to jump into this Operation Majority speech that he gave, and then we're going to go into Appendix C, the musings. I feel like I've really been babbling for a long time already. All right, here we go. Thank you guys for all of your support. All right. Delta. I remember reading this part already, so this is a good, safe spot to get into. Delta is the designation for the specific arm of the NRO. The NRO, you might remember, is the National Recon Organization based in Fort Carson, Colorado, which is especially trained and tasked with the security of these projects. Joshua is the project to develop low-frequency pulsed sound-generating weapons. It was said that this weapon would be effective against the alien craft and beam weapons. Excalibur is a weapon to destroy the alien underground bases. It is to be a missile capable of penetrating 1,000 meters of tough, hard-packed soil, such as that found in New Mexico with no operational damage. I guess this is where the bunker busters come from. Let me see if I can chase down a date real quick. All right, so he did this speech in 89. So that was well before the first Gulf War, which started in it started on Martin Luther King's Day in 1993, if memory serves. So these beam weapons that he's talking about, and this bunker buster, maybe that's something that saw the light of day there in Operation Desert Storm. Missile apology, not extend 30,000 feet AGL. The impact must not deviate in excess of 50 meters from the designated target. The device will carry 1 megaton nuclear warhead. Aliens. There were 4 types of aliens mentioned in these papers. A large-nosed gray, with whom we have a treaty. The gray reported in abductee cases that they actually work for the large-nosed grays. Okay, so now there's 2 kinds of grays. There's the Whitley Strieber, Close Encounters of the Third kind of gray, and they work for grays with large noses. No nose works for the big nose. That's some racist shit in there already, isn't it? The blonde human type is described as the Nordic, a red-haired human type called the Orange. The home of the aliens were described as being a star in the constellation of Orion, Barnard's star, and Zeta Reticuli. Zeta Reticuli. All those years of Star Trek, I just fucking flushed it, right? Zeta Reticuli, 1 and 2. I cannot remember, even under hypnosis, which alien belongs to which star. EBE is the name or designation given to live alien captured in the 1949 Roswell crash. He died in captivity. Shrill, pronounced Krill, Krill. Must exterminate. The Dalek must exterminate. Krill was the hostage left with us, the first Holloman landing, as a pledge that the alien would carry out their part of the basic agreement reached during that meeting. Krill gave us the foundation of the Yellow Book, which was completed by the guests at a later date. Krill became sick and was nursed by Dr. G. Mendoza, who became an expert on alien biology and medicine. Krill later died. His information was disseminated under the pseudonym O.H. Krill or Srill. Guests were aliens exchanged for humans who gave us the balance of the Yellow Book. Here we go again, this idea, this Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Remember at the end when we gave them prisoners and then we got our old, like a fucking like Amelia Earhart and stuff came out of the spaceship. At the time I saw the information, there were only 3 left alive. They were called something alien life forms. Transmission, garbled, religion. The aliens claim to have created Homo sapiens through hybridization. The paper said that R.H. Blood was proof of this. They further claimed to have created all 4 major religions. They showed a hologram of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, which the government filmed. They claimed that Jesus was created by them. Alien bases exist in the 4 corners area of Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Nevada. Harry Reid is to blame, I'm sure. 6 bases were described in the 1972 papers on Indian reservations. I don't think we're supposed to call them that anymore. Native American reservations and all the 4 corners area. The base near Dulce was one of them. Murder. Documents state that many military and government personnel had been terminated, murdered without the due process of law when they have attempted to reveal this secret. Craft recoveries. The documents were stated that many craft had been recovered, the early ones from Roswell, Aztec, Roswell, again, Texas, Mexico, and other places. General Doolittle made a prediction that one day we would have to reckon with these aliens. Then the document stated that it appeared that General Doolittle was correct. Abductions were occurring long before 1972. Obviously, if they have Amelia Earhart, the document stated that humans and animals were being abducted and or mutilated. I just fell right into this Dalek thing. Many vanished without a trace. They were taking sperm and ova sample. Hey, all right. Samples, tissues. Performed surgical operations, implanted a spherical device 40 to 80 millicrons in size in the optic nerve in the brain. An attempt to remove it resulted in the death of the patient. The document estimated that 1 in every 40 people, 1 in every 40? What? Had been implanted. Okay, I think that this is actually might have been where I left off. So the first, I don't know. So it might all have been redundant up to this point. All right, this implant was said to give aliens the total control of that human. Contingency plan should the information become public or should the aliens attempt a takeover. Of course, they're going to attempt a takeover. They're aliens. That's what they do. This plan called for a public announcement that a terrorist group has entered the United States with an atomic weapon. It should be announced that the terrorists plan to detonate the weapon in a major city. Martial law would be declared and all persons with implants would be rounded up along with the dissidents, and would be placed into concentration camps. So he said this in 89. So many people that do podcasts in this space have like a Alex Jones impersonation or a guy who does Alex Jones impersonations. I don't do Alex Jones impersonations. I don't really do any impersonation. I impersonate myself from time to time. But if I did do an Alex Jones impersonation, now is the time where I'd be like, it's the FEMA camps. How was that? Was it any good? I did 2 words. The press, radio, and TV would be nationalized and controlled. God, the fucking Democrats would love that shit when they're fucking mouth waters when they hear this shit like this. Nationalize and control the radio and TV. Well, they already got the press, right? I mean, that's pretty obvious. Anyone attempting to resist would be arrested and or killed. Contingency plan to contain or delay the release of information. This plan called for the use of the Majestic 12 as a disinformation ploy to delay and to confuse the release of information should anyone get too close to the truth. It was selected because of the similarity of the spelling between and similar to MJ12. This was designed to confuse memory and to result in a fruitless search for material that does not exist. You know, if you were to write this today, if Bill Cooper was alive today and he was talking about this stuff, he would be like, it was the goddamn Mandela effect. They sent alien time travelers back to change the Berenstein Bears and fucked everything up. Or the Bernstein Burrs or whatever. Source material contained in the documents which I saw. The source of the material was an Office of Naval Intelligence counterintelligence operation against MJ-12 in order for the Navy to find out the truth of what was really going on. The Navy at the time, or at least the Navy that I worked for, were not participants of any of this. The different services in the government conducted this type of operation against each other all of the time. The results of this operation was that the Navy cut themselves in for a piece of the action, quote, technology, unquote, in the control of some of these projects. As you can see, this file is only a little different from my previous file. Only some names were scrambled previously to confuse the government long enough for someone to verify that what I have said is the truth. I have added information in this file that puts me in absolute danger. I've sent a copy of this file to people all over the country, and I will continue to do so. Please get this file into as many hands as you can, and maybe that will protect me, but I doubt it. So that's what I'm doing here, Bill. I'm trying to get this information to as many hands as I possibly can. History will be the judge of me and this information, and I have no fear of that judgment. I swear that this information is true and correct to the best of my knowledge. I wish to thank all the people who have aided me in this, in researching this point and for their patience and their understanding, and I owe you all more than I can ever repay. Finally, it does not matter who is right and who is wrong. If a project name is in the wrong place, it does not matter who is working for whom or what is really what. It should be obvious by now that something sinister and terribly wrong is going on involving the government and the UFO phenomenon. We shall all band together to expose it now. I have done my part in the best manner that I could, and I can add nothing else except my testimony in Congress or in a court of law. What I saw and what I've written in this file is true, and that I saw it. Everything in my previous file that does not conflict with this file is true and correct to the best of my knowledge, and some of it from sources and research. You may combine the files together to get the entire picture. Throughout, only that information that conflicts with that contained in this file. Bill Cooper's just instigated a law of abrogation like the Muslims have, right? If anything in the previous file is overwritten by the stuff in this file, you should go with the stuff in this file. Let's see how fat of a mess that makes. Together, there will be no further additions and or corrections to this information either now or in the future. My file is complete and stands to be judged by history. Sometime in the future, the exact papers that I saw will surface, and you will all see the exact information contained within them. Milton William Cooper, January 10, 1989. So all this stuff came from these documents that he saw. And this reminds me of Holy Blood and Holy Grail, where Lincoln Bayonne and whatever the other guy's name is, they were like, look, we got to hold these documents, but you know what documents prove? They don't prove anything except the existence of a document. Just because someone writes something down on paper doesn't mean fucking anything. Unless it's notarized.
Are you interested in the occult, history, conspiracy, and violence? Learn more at Advertise.com. Find more episodes on this topic. Sign up for the mailing list for bonus content. Get access to the show archive. And visit the storefront for tarot cards, merch, and books. Learn more at Advertise.com.
All right, Appendix C, musings. This is where it hits the metal, the rubber meets the road. There is some thought that the U.S. Air Force, in conjunction with the Canadians, has standing orders to deny any UFO sightings to the public. Timothy Good, in his book Above Top Secret, states cooperation between the United States and Canada in the reporting of UFOs was laid down, for example, in the Canadian United States Communications Instructions for Reporting Vital Intelligence Sightings, the CIRVIS JANAP 146-E unhyphen. Issued March 1966 by the Joint Chiefs of Staff as well as the Canadian Defense Staff. This publication lists instructions for the reporting of information of vital importance to the security of the United States of America and Canada. Their forces, which in the opinions of the observer requires very urgent defensive and or investigative action by the U.S. and or Canadian armed forces. Sightings within the scope of JANAP 146, including unidentified flying objects as distinct from the hostile of identified single aircraft or formations of aircraft. And there are lengthy and elaborate instructions for reporting UFOs. Good 192. He later states, because of the report like these, UFO airline pilots become subject to military restrictions contained in a joint Navy, Army, Air Force publication, JANAP, drawn up by the Joint Communication Electronics Committee and promulgated by the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and could thus find themselves liable to prison term of up to 10 years and a fine of $10,000 if they discuss their sightings with the media or public. I don't know how that would work. How can you hold these commercial pilots to, I don't know, the military code of justice? How can you do that if they never raised their hand and if they never pledged allegiance or whatever? You know, when you get sworn in and you're an enlisted man, or when you're an officer, you pledge, to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. And that's what puts you under the control of the military code of justice. If you haven't done it, if you haven't done that, I don't know how you can be held for 10 years for reporting seeing the swamp gas. Stan Barrington offers it back to it. Stan Barrington offers a document about Operation Majority, which concerns the dealings of MJ-12. The following discussion takes from alt.conspiracy section of Usenet, focusing on the validity of those documents. Quote, what is the latest status of the MJ-12 documents concerning authenticity? ? I know that class did his usual debunking job, but also read that that's Milton Friedman, produced all the supporting evidence. Class had demanded similar typeface in use on other documents in the same era. Has the U.S. government taken a formal position on the MJ-12 documents? What evidence, pro and con, has been produced on the authenticity issue since their release? What are the details of the release? Any and all information will be appreciated. Gee, thanks. Unquote. The reply was, quote, I don't know about the U.S. government's position, but class has done a pretty good job of showing that there is at least some fraud in the papers. In particular, he has shown that the supposed signature of Harry Truman on one of the critical papers is the identical to the signature on another document in the National Archives, except that if I recall correctly, 3.6% larger. It is impossible for the two signatures to be identical unless one is a photographic copy of the other. And interestingly, most copying machines do a very small expansion of what they copy to prevent edge effects, blown up exactly 1.2%. So it would appear that this supposed signature is actually a third-generation photocopy of Truman's signature. Handwriting experts have confirmed this. I believe it is written up to the current, this was spring of 1990, Skeptical Inquirer, but I can't find the copy at the moment, so I can't say for sure, unquote. I don't know who Class or Friedman are, although Friedman may be the same person that was mentioned as a helper in The Majestic by Whitley Strieber, and also mentioned as a government official in this speech. Skeptical Inquirer is a respected paranormal debunking newspaper put out by James, quote, the amazing, unquote, Randi. James the Amazing Randi. It also seems to me that the idea of Truman's signature as a photocopy of another one in the National Archives is a bit odd. I've actually caught people doing this before, like in my everyday life. Well, it was a previously everyday life. So I used to work in an office building, and getting things re-signed and stuff was a pain in the ass hole sometimes. So I found I'm like, why is this guy being able to fix all these rejects so fast? And I went to his desk and started going through his drawers and shit, and I'm like, why has he got paste? You know, this is like America. This isn't Russia. Like, we don't actually, when we say copy and paste, we don't actually ever fucking actually paste anything. Anyhow, it turns out that he was taking signatures from other documents that were, you know, good. They were right. They were correct. And he was actually pasting them. You know, he had like transparent tape and all this other stuff too. So he was like cutting, like if you were to say like document A was good and document B was bad, he was cutting the signatures out of a copy of document A and attaching them on the signature line. He was erasing the signature line, putting the signature on there, redoing the signature line. He had like fucking like a T-square and all this. I don't know. And then making additional copies of them and passing those off as originals with the signatures. So we were looking at them and we were like, look, this signature is exactly the same. This proves that this is our correct signature. And I'm like, no, bitch, you don't understand. Signatures aren't exact. Sign your name fucking 3 times and then look at all the differences. Like, that's the fucking law of averages. Anyhow, it's just funny that this came up with this Truman business. Truth is these globalists, they fucking hate Truman. Truman created a sun in the east, a supernova. He created two of them, actually. And they've never forgiven him for that shit. No matter what you think of the tactics or the strategy or the lives that it saved, whatever you think about it, people have never forgiven Truman for that. That's why he didn't go for a second term, I believe. Back to it. There must be thousands of Truman's signatures in the archives, and thinking that someone could find that just exact one that matched to 3.6% enlargement is laughable. But again, those same people find the idea of huge UFO cover-ups laughable. All right, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Whitley Strieber is a strange character in the whole affair. He's a writer of Wolfen and The Howling. Did he fucking write The Howling? Dude, I gotta tell you, I'm a gigantic fan of werewolf movies. And if you've listened to the show long enough, you know that. I did a whole sermon of the wolf business. God, I didn't know he wrote The fucking Howling. American Werewolf in London is a superior werewolf movie. However, The Howling, the design of the Howling werewolves are the best. God, fucking Howling. Eddie Quist, The Mangler. Two horror novels. Lately, he's turned to writing about UFOs. His first book on the subject, Communion, deals with his personal experience with abduction by an unknown intelligence. Strieber always tries to avoid the word alien so he can leave the options open that these are humans that are traveling through time or traveling even an unknown earthly intelligence. His second book, Transformation, is not as familiar to me, but I have heard that it is more of the same as Communion, except that it is less well supported and the deals with a sort of religion of the unknown. Strieber contends that his book and the others, as he calls them, gave him a sketchy design for an anti-gravity motor that relies on rotating magnetics. You see this, people still talk about this shit on Ancient Aliens. They talk about this motor that, like, sloshes around mercury or something that creates an anti-gravity field. I'm like, whatever. I'm not smart enough to understand any of that. His third book is Majestic. Milton William Cooper mentions in his speech, the book that follows the Cooper speech closely in many regards. In fact, sometimes it seems like one is stealing from the other because they are so close. Strieber writes this book as fiction, but at the end there is this section in which he says that the book is based on truth and that the government is hiding information from the public. He insists that this is the truth and it must be brought out. However, Cooper says that Strieber is working for the government. He offers some proof to this claim, but he doesn't really say why the government should hire Strieber to write Majestic, or whether he is hired before he wrote Communion and Transformation. All Cooper says is that Strieber is testing the waters and leaking information in a way that the government could deny. I think that if Strieber works for the government, it then is most likely because the government thinks that people will not believe anything he writes about UFOs. Given the history of writing horror, thus, the government has Strieber write something based on truth, and everyone thinks is coming from such a bad source that it must be false. Skipping ahead, this is from Keith Rowell in Oregon. You folks interested in Strieber's claim should check out the book Report on Communion, written by a guy named published by Morrow in 1989, written by Ed Conroy. Conroy is a San Antonio-based freelance reporter who wrote some early articles for the local newspaper, and he continued to explore and investigate till he ended up with a book. He basically concludes that Strieber's claims are true as far as we now understand the UFO phenomenon, which is very far from adequate at this time. The scholarly and scientific establishment has yet to be honest and openly embrace the problem of the UFO. These UFOs are very problematic. Conroy's book is opening the way for the investigative media people, although they're changing as the UFO issue just refuses to go away. You will hear more and more about the reality status of UFOs. We'll go through the 90s. Intelligence establishment secrecy is being slowly broken down, and the scientific/scholarly community is slowly putting up less resistance as the years go by. Quote, my opinion are based on 15 years of, I'm starting to speed up, I'm running out of time, UFO literature and 4 years or so or more or less active participation in the UFO community. Is very hard to understand what is going on in the UFO community without paying very close attention to it. The normal sources of news and information cover this group of people are very inconsistent and sometimes downright biased way. You're just going to have to get to your feet on this one way or another. Otherwise, you will just be talking through your hat. I've never heard of that term before, talking through your hat. I'll be happy to send you via electronic mail my UFO bibliography. If anyone wants it, lately a new and significant UFO books are added practically every month in the past few years. UFOs are hot again. It seems to be in peak of activity again. The latest significant book is by Ed Walters on his Gulf Breeze UFO photograph experience, being distributed by your local bookstores as I write this. All right. Well, I think that's going to finish up our little series of Fellowcraft episodes that we've been doing on Milton William Cooper and all this UFO business. As a guy who spends a lot of time talking about weird shit, like, I'm kind of glad to be done with this, right? Like, let's get back into some, I don't know. Let's get back into some, I don't know what we're going to do. Anyhow, I'm John. This has been the Advertise, the Fellowcraft episode, the UFO Conspiracy Part 3, the musings of Bill Cooper. And thank you guys all so much for your support. I do, man, I appreciate it so much. Yeah. All right. So that's it. That's literally, that's all I had to say. So here we go.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Send an email or visit us on social media to let us know what you think about this topic. And please remember to leave a 5-star rate and review.
Who wrote The Howling? All right, let's see here. Who wrote The Howling? The Howling film, according to Wikipedia. The Howling is a 1981 American horror film directed by Joe Dante. I feel like I do know this. Starring Dee Wallace. That's right. Okay, so we're talking about the right thing. Patrick, Dennis Dugan, and Robert Picardo. Robert Picardo, back to the Star Trek thing, was the holographic doctor in Voyager. But before that, he was the mangler Eddie Quist, the serial killer at the beginning of The Howling. So I know that. This was based on the novel The Same Name by Gary Bradner. The film follows a television newswoman sent on a remote mountain resort after a near-fatal incident with a serial killer who was Eddie Quist. Unaware the residents are all werewolves. Based on Gary Bradner's The Howling. Screenplay by John Sayles and Terrence Wilkins. There's literally nothing in here that says Whitley Strieber wrote The fucking Howling. Good night, everybody. I'm going home.
Thank you for listening, and we hope that you enjoyed the show. Please send an email or find us on social media and let us know what you think about the show. We would appreciate it if you would give us a 5-star rate and review wherever you find your favorite podcasts. You can find Stigmata Studios, graphic, novels, and comic books at apricast.com.